Ohio roots. She also taught at Case Western for a while, now lives in Provincetown. She was a Pulitzer Prize-winning author in 1984 for a collection of poems called The American Primitive. So primarily talking about women, and there it is.
Yes.
She died about 2 years ago, didn't she?
No, her partner did.
No.
Ruth.
No, what?
She's alive.
She's
She's
her
alive.
partner that died, yeah.
Mary Cook Malone or something like that. She was a photographer.
To me, an extremely interesting part of her life was that as a teenager, she decided she was going to set out and be a poet. She left Ohio and she went and she lived with Vincent and her sister. I'm talking about Edna St. Vincent Millay.
Yeah.
And for something like 6 years before. And she never had any really academic degrees, but she ultimately got.
Has anybody read her book Thirst?
There it is, right here.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I have that one too, yeah.
I imagine she's been supplanted by,
Mary Oliver.
what's his name, Billy Collins.
Yeah.
But she was, for a long time, the best-selling poet in America.
So I selected two, and Ruth selected two. I'll read one of those. You have copies of them, but to me, they're all.
No,
Pardon me?
Which one is it that you started with?
No,
The
no.
journey?
I had sent them out, but I'm sorry I didn't make
Oh,
copies.
that's all right.
You're welcome to have this one there, and I'll read out of the.
I'll share mine with you if you want.
So the first one, the one I'll select is called The Journey. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles, mend my life, each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. This was an important poem for me because it really pushed me to this idea of doing more writing. When I first read this several years ago, I was in a beginning of my writing period, and I decided that, hey, I'm going to go for it. Just write this stuff and started writing short stories. I wrote some poems. I got a whole, desk full of stack of notebooks of just stuff that I wrote. And it is writing.
Well, it was wrong at the beginning, but you were right.
It was like,
There's a poem there somewhere.
who cares? Go for it. So, anyway.
Yes. So,
I have those books too. And
I have one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a couple of myself.
And I
like his commentary. What did he say about this one?
Yeah, it's great
Yeah,
stuff.
Gee, I didn't read that part.
Pretty good.
You're honest.
This one.
He does a wonderful exegesis. Usually he goes through the poem and says what it means to him and then suggests that this is not the only meaning, but it's a meaning. That's what he got out of it. It's very, very well done.
Yeah.
To me, it reads very autobiographical for her. Yeah. I don't know the year that it was written.
That's a good question. I don't know either.
You're not going to read the other ones?
I'd love
But
that.
what does it mean?
What?
What does it mean?
It means whatever you want it to be.
The Journey?
Yeah.
Well, I just,
What does it mean for you?
I don't know if I've got
What does
that.
it mean for me?
What does it mean for her?
Well, this is the first time I've heard it. I haven't read this one.
I think it means that you stand up and, I based the poem that I wrote today on this one. But I think it means you stand up and take a look at your life and say, I'm gonna have to do something about X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, you can only save your own life. You gotta be, nobody else can
Yeah.
be you, except you.
Yeah.
Save yourself, that's what I would
Put your mask on first on the airplane.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't need this.
Don't touch
West
it.
wind. Oh, yeah, I have one too. You need another west wind.
I have a West Wing also.
I must be missing something. Why on earth
Conversational
would you
rather
row
than
toward the falls? If it were me, I'd row quickly away from the falls.
That's the really unsettling part about it.
Why would you race to your death?
Well, if you were young, and stupid, you'd change license first of all.
Yeah, all right, okay.
I'll answer, I'd like to answer that.
Please.
Um, And I guess I read a number of her poems. I feel like there's a struggle with me between the hesitation of living and sort of wanting the life to slow down a little, let me take each moment carefully and then actually pull away from death, pull away from the end. But at the same time, I'm feeling this saying, just go as fast as you can through this, because we're all gonna die anyway. So let's make it exciting, let's make it challenging, you know, that's the, I mean, to me, it states that kind of struggle.
Yeah.
Okay, I think when you participate in the process, and it's a long process, it's really not long, but it seems like it's long. And when you get closer to that point and you see the suffering, you want it to you want it to go fast. You want to say, go, 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 go to the light, go to the light, or wherever that is. Because you know that it has to end. So,
Where's Dylan Thomas raging against the dying of the light? I'm on Dylan Thomas's side here. I don't want to hurry to my waterfall. But I get the point, though. I mean, it is a profound point.
Who read the line, "Death be not proud"? Where did that one come from? Do you remember?
Oh, look it up in your little computers.
I'll find it in a minute, yeah.
But anyway, when I was doing a lot of my writing, I would take a line.
John Donne, isn't it? I would guess, but I'll find it.
I would take a line like that, and then I would write. So what does that really mean? And I would just start this stream of consciousness of writing about death be not proud. And so anyway, it's that rush toward.
Hey, I got the prize, John Donne. John Donne, I don't know which one it is. Death be not proud, though some have called the mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. I thought it might have been Shakespeare, 'cause he has a wonderful line, the death once dead, there's no dying, then it's a religious sort of stuff.
Is that where it asks where, what's the phrase? The bell, for whom the bell tolls.
Yeah.
It's the same piece.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, that's a profound thoughts.
I like her nature poems about
Mhm.
critters in nature a great deal.
Especially the ones about.
I have one here, I don't know. You guys haven't finished reading your handouts.
Oh, that's all I had to hand out, actually.
Wild Geese is one of her best known poems.
I know, and I'm
That's a
sorry, I
wonderful
just didn't
quote.
print it.
I like that one too.
Well, I'll lend you mine.
You're gonna read
Oh,
it?
have you got it?
Why don't you read it?
Well, we printed
Read
it
it
out.
out then, Snip.
Yeah, I've got it.
I printed it
Most of
out.
it's
Wild
got it.
Geese, yeah.
All right, here's Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers, Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things.
I think one of the key lines in that poem for me is, meanwhile, the world goes on.
Yeah,
It
Yeah.
just goes on.
yeah, yeah, it does.
It's called The Park Rules.
No fun.
Yeah, no pun. The Park Rules.
Do not walk on the grass.
No skating, no biking, don't move too fast. No pets and no picnics, keep off the grass. No fishing, no swimming, the risk is all yours. Do not roam or explore, there'll be no guided tours. No walking, no running, don't wander too far. No skipping or jumping, just stand where you are. No laughing, no talking, there's nothing to say. No sitting or sleeping, get out of the way. No eating or drinking, for those you must pay. No heartbeats, no breathing, have a nice day.
You go next.
I go next.
Such an empty phrase.
I like that.
Well, I don't know if I can beat that humor, but
It's very good, Tom.
I might not have enough to go around. You guys can share.
I like your title.
Did you see that partially in a park one day?
Um,
Sign on sign?
Well, you know, it was because I was walking through a lot of parks and I would see signs, everything's no this, no that, don't do
Keep
that.
off the
Get
grass.
off the grass, don't
Share yours.
swim, don't dive, don't fish.
Don't die.
We can share.
Oh, we have
Can I
pickles.
share
Is it possible love is like a perfect pickle? Or does soaking in vinegar do away with desire and lust? Is it possible love is a perfect pickled herring on a piece of toast slashed with sour cream? Is it possible love is a perfect pickled egg? Can we salt love's eager flow, add spices, can it up in glass jars, let it cure on the pantry shelf, and then open the contents for consumption? Cucumbers, lemons, snakes, vegetables of all sorts and colors, pickled, love in a bottle.
Look out, Nicholas Sparks.
Do some people pickle snakes?
And eels, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, God.
Pickle everything. It's just a way of saving food, you know. But anyway, I was eating a pickle, a Frog Ranch pickle, and it seemed to me I really like pickles. If you've never tried Frog Ranch
Hot pickles?
yeah, those are good.
Spicy pickles?
Yeah. The other one is seashells.
But it's like
Comment
what?
on this.
Okay, comment, yeah.
I've been working on another poem, a longer one, which I'm still playing with, but it was about my relationship with my wife, and it was about, it speaks to this about being pickled. I mean, I didn't use it, that picture, but that's sort of what happens in a relationship, that you know, you feel like this thing is changing, and whether you like pickles, you're like being pickled or not, is really an interesting question. That as the relationship develops, it is a pickling process. Or prickling, I'm not sure. But, I mean, I really
There's
like.
tickling also.
I like the tickling, yeah, I love the picture, it's really nice.
It's making it last anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
That's the way it lasts.
Put it in the jar. There it is. Glass jar. Seashells. My collection of shells, not comprehensive, but gathered for my pleasure, fills several boxes and baskets scattered about the house. Some found on sandy beaches, like the sunrise shell from Guanabo Playa, or the oyster cluster picked up on Sherrod's Island. All offer beauty or strange charm in the twirl, twist, and color of the creature's growth. Occasionally I study them, remembering their names, if they come from the Atlantic, Pacific, or other ocean. And who ripped that abalone shell from its rock? Who ate the oyster? Did the eater ever think I would hold his thrown-away shell in my hand? Stories of divers risking life to gather pearls, or the making of shells by craftsmen to fool the buyer, of islanders using shells for money. A pocket full of cowries would be more uncomfortable than a pocket full of pennies. These are stories my shells tell me on winter afternoons. Sometimes I catch a whiff of the sea.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you ever hold your shells to your ears?
I hear you. I have a nice big horse conch that's very good for hearing the sea.
Shells are the residue of a life, right?
Yeah.
Or the creation.
Yeah.
Is it a residue or a creation of life? It's the process of living that makes the calcium.
The Sherrod Island is a small beach on the west coast of Florida, Central Florida. And there's a large Indian mound there. In fact, there's several large mounds in the area, and they're all made out of oyster shells. Just 50, 70 feet in the air piled up of oyster shells.
We're back to T.S. Eliot. We're back to
Yeah.
T.S. Eliot. Sawdust
But
restaurants
you
with oyster
think,
shells.
how did they get the shells there? I mean,
Yeah.
I know why they constructed these mounds, they're protection from wind and water, but like all things you pile one on top of another, you keep increasing the base, so you need more on the top. And anyway,
Oh, the size of those mounds, I mean,
Yeah, they're
it's
huge.
incalculable how many shells and how many eons
Yeah.
needed to
Parties they
create
had.
them.
Yeah, we don't even know how long it took.
They were also a refuge from mosquitoes.
yeah. These aren't middens, these are just shell mounds, there's
Yeah.
no garbage. But anyway, I used to wander there on Sherrod's Island, and I do like seashells.
Wow. You have baskets of them. They're fun.
In fact, I hit a site on the web the other week, and they list the prices of various things, seashells among them. And I was amazed at, I got this basket of shells on the table in the living room. There's about $400 worth of shells in that thing, just from
Expensive thing.
the prices that they're getting. Now, I don't know if it's a scarcity or what it is, that the prices have gone up so much. That's mine. That's my day.
I grew up next to the Atlantic Ocean, so seashells are very special.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
They're
where?
beautiful. Near Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Okay, we used to live in Long Branch.
Are you serious?
I'm really serious.
I
I'm
used to live
serious.
in Lincroft, New Jersey.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, we're gonna have
Wow.
New Jersey reunion.
Yeah.
The ruin
Yeah,
of
well,
the
I
pits,
never
right?
lived
Well,
in
you
New
would know,
Jersey.
Long Branch is almost literally right next door
Yeah,
to
right,
Asbury.
Right near Fort Monmouth.
Well, then you
That's
yeah.
why we were there.
Yeah, oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, then you might even know the name of my hometown, which is Wanamassa. But I wrote that in one of my ode to Athens, 45701.
Right.
I mentioned that.
Pinsky is from Long Branch, New Jersey. I think he still lives there. Robert Pinsky, the,
Yeah.
Poet, yeah.
yeah.
Huh.
What are you?
Bruce
Oh, wow.
Springsteen.
Yeah, that was in what I
Asbury
wrote.
Park.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to thank this group because it's really a challenge to me to do this type of writing. And I've been enjoying it. And I enjoy hearing the works that people come up with, so I'm very thankful. And I did finish, if you got my email, I was working on something, and I don't know what to call it, as in, is it a riddle poem, poem riddle, a poem that is a riddle, or a riddle that is a poem? So you can help me
Well,
decide.
given the size of the crowd and so on, I think perhaps we ought to have an admission fee, right? And perhaps reserved seats. Treasury.
When you were in China, did you write?
Did I write? Emails?
No, I mean personal,
Oh,
do.
like a journal or something like
Yeah, or a
that?
poem.
No, not really, no. I was more in the here and now and action. And people knew that it was okay to call me at midnight, and so no, my life was more people. Okay, what is it? What has at least 14 definitions, many different positions, multiple idioms and phrases, and goes through numerous phases? Attempts to convey its meaning. What are you thinking? Need some clues? Please do not get the blues. Do not blow a fuse. Which will you choose? You can have a good one, or it can be bad. Hard, but not soft. Careful, does it need a stitch? It might make you rich. One can even have a race. Who will win in this case? It can be all or none, even never. Rough though it be, it is better. They can say it is set or fixed, but they should not be mixed. Short, long, please do not kill. You do not need a pill. Lovely, oh, how sweet. Will you be discreet? It's just a matter of time to link these clues. This is not a rouge. Please refuse to misconstrue. Maybe we should go to some zoos. We could take some and see what ensues. Want the answer in the news? Hopefully before you snooze, you should not lose. A whale, yes, even a whale. When lost, many will bewail. Thankfully others can find, and yet some will divide. We know there is a wrong and right, why it might even be tight. Will you stand the test, or will you just want to rest? For such a time as this, please, please do not miss. Would you like a kiss? Oh, hiss. What is the premise? What am I talking about?
Yeah.
It is a riddle.
There is one answer?
There is one answer.
To which question?
All the questions kind of lead towards the same thing.
But this thing has 14 definitions
Yeah,
in the dictionary.
according to the internet, yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Positions?
Is it an egg?
No.
That shoots my theory.
I want to hear your theory.
You don't, not really.
Okay.
A poem.
Need a
A poem?
stitch?
No.
Huh.
Need a stitch? Stitch. Careful, need a stitch. Might make you rich.
A day,
Nope.
a preposition.
No.
Love.
Love.
Everybody answered no.
At first I thought it was a Kama Sutra with 14 definitions and multiple positions.
It's not a disease, is it?
No, it's not a disease.
Is it life?
No.
No, that's what I just.
Could be somebody.
Yeah.
Goddess, puzzles might make you rich. Right.
No.
Don't need a pill.
Okay.
Okay, wait.
Let's hear it.
Giving up.
It's
Hell,
an animal.
Yeah. No, it's not.
At the zoo?
She's gonna bring it out. It's a-
Yeah.
It's a
I'm gonna
thing.
show you, because I thought this was fascinating. Oops, I have to find my paper. Oops. But it is a 4-letter word, and actually it's in there
Anglo-Saxon.
twice. But it's a good positive 4-letter word. Oh, where did
You can just tell us.
I can just tell you, yeah, I can,
well,
but I wanna show you, because I was fascinated by it.
Love,
Talking about time,
time.
a stitch in time,
Oh.
we kill time, the time of our lives. What are some of the other ones? Actually, it's just a matter of time is a direct quote, and also for such a time as this are both direct quotes. But in Googling phrases with time, there was pages. That's what I wanted to show you. There were pages of the phrases that were used. And I didn't know that it has 14 different definitions, but the different positions on the old-fashioned watches, you know, on an old-fashioned clock. So, let me see some of it. You can have a good time, it can be bad, hard time, but we don't talk about soft time.
But you do talk about time in the last stanza, for such a time as this.
Yeah, that was one of the clues. And we have a saying that time is money. Right? Yeah. So I used a lot of those phrases and put them in here. It was a fun thing.
Boy, you did.
Yeah.
You did
Very
very
well
well.
done.
And I stumped you.
Is there
Yes.
such thing as a kiss in time?
Well, yeah, I think so. But that was just for fun. That was rhyming was this, for such a time as this.
The only dream I had at all like that was, maybe a couple months after one of my nieces died. I dreamed that my parents were sitting on a little stone bridge over a creek, and my niece came down the path, and they said, "Well, Karen, what are you doing here?" And that was it. Because they had predeceased her by quite some time, and, she wasn't right for her to be there.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes. That was beautiful. Yeah. It's a breakthrough.
Well, it also happened on Friday, but it was very different.
That's young.
Don Voronoi introduced me to an amazing woman, Kati Al-Hayek, Syrian, a recent graduate of the Communication Development Studies program, who gave a presentation on Syrian women refugees. And Don also sent the link to an article she had written, which is very powerful, and it's in the little box at the bottom.
You can share one if
And, oh, I'm sorry, you need one more?
We have enough.
I have, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
This is not technically a footnote.
No, I was very careful not to have any little asterisks. It's a box. It's a different story.
It's a box, not a footnote.
It's a box.
There's another footnote, okay? It happens to be at the foot of the page, but you can turn the page around. Anyway, this is things I've been thinking about a lot, this and my pet piece about the media, but there it goes. Syrian women refugees, screamed the media, as if all were one. Syrian women refugees, a voiceless mass, a tribe lost without compass, in the portrayal of reporters who understand little, just gossipers, newsmongers. When left alone, Lena says from a shed in Becca, you have to push boundaries and make things happen. When you're weak, you're done. You have to be strong to defend yourself, the household, and your kids. Syrian women refugees are many, but arrived one by one, each one with her own story to tell, each one with a different road to hell. Now living in a hut, in the mud, in an apartment or a room too dismal to describe, struggling to maintain her pride. But every woman has her voice. Her representation is her choice. Her struggle and suffering, hers alone. How wrong for the media to treat them as if all were a clone, to rob them of their agency, to make them invisible like the bottom of the sea. Each woman grieves her own loss. Each has her own Hades to uncross. And yet the media depict them as if they were all the same, all victims sharing equal shame, faceless, nameless, powerless, just waiting for tough men to liberate them from their distress. Yes, they need help in their plight, not with rhetorical platitudes, but a genuine change of attitudes that can really help them in their fight. But the media just confound and confuse, and countries are asked to help, but refuse. Governments promise to send money to alleviate the refugees' despair, but the pledges turn out to be phony. Syrian women refugees are left to struggle alone, their children on their knees, their future an unknown. The world should show compassion, but selects other matters to attend. Syrian women are strong. Great powers may fail to comprehend the moral debt they must accept. So the women alone will right every wrong. They have children to protect. They have agency. They have strength. They have a horror to abrogate. They have a future to create.
You're talking about the mass settlements of refugees, or
Yeah.
people in any situation?
Yeah, and actually one thing that Kathy does in her article is now she criticizes the way that the media homogenize, and we simply talk about Syrian women, refugees, refugee camps,
Yeah.
like if always a mass.
Uh-huh.
But then she goes to the stories of 6 women. And you see that each one has her own story, her own battles. But the thing, and part of what she says, and I completely agree, is one of the things that I detest about the news media today, is this presentation of information outside of its context. So decontextualize information, treat everybody the same, homogenize, standardize, rob people, culture, societies of their individuality, of the things that make them and each one of their members unique. You know, it's a way of making these women powerless, of making them voiceless, of not allowing them to speak with their own voice, of denying them the agency that they do have.
You're just one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Has anybody in here heard the story about the women in Bergen-Belsen and the lipstick?
What was that?
It was a death camp, and
Yeah,
it was the one that Anne Frank was in, actually.
yeah.
But that somebody somehow, I mean, nobody knows, a case of red lipstick showed up in that camp. They needed everything else. They didn't need red lipstick. And the women got it. And they were running around with blankets wrapped around them and red lips. And they were laying in their beds with no clothes and red lips because it made them feel alive again, because they were no longer a number and a star. They felt like they were women and beautiful again. And this British commander writes about this and how women everywhere in the camp were running around with red lipstick on because it brought them back their humanity. I thought that was kind of, I was thinking about that, and you know, I was thinking about in your second stanza, I guess, paragraph, whatever, how it all gets down to that basic needs. It's that basic stuff that we need that constantly gets overlooked.
Yeah, and I took this leaflet as a direct quotation of a woman published it's a publication of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, and it's a 70, 80-page book with really harrowing photographs of huts in the mud in Jordan and in the Bekaa Valley and other parts of Lebanon. And it also tells the story of these women, and they start with this quotation, and I thought, wow, that's very appropriate for the context of the poem.
It's overwhelming, really, for so many of these countries to have this influx of refugees.
The worst case is Lebanon, a country of 4 million people,
Right.
and well over 1 million
Right.
refugees. Some people think as many as between 1 and
Jordan,
2 million.
I mean, Jordan has had Palestinian refugees
Well,
longer than.
Yeah. with the Palestinians, it's more than 50% of the population of Jordan is
Yeah,
refugees.
yeah, I mean, this is a totally understandable problem which we don't seem to be able
No,
to solve.
no.
Joseph, I did wonder, did you think about including some specific women's stories?
I did, but once I was in the middle of writing the poem, I thought, no, it's not necessary. It would be like a different poem. That's where I was going. And I had already taken a number of quotations from Kathy's article and the 6 women that
Yeah.
she describes. But I thought, no, I'll just do this path.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because if you did any of them, you'd almost have to do all of them, and then you get an unwieldy.
Yes.
No, I don't
Yeah.
think so. I don't think so.
I don't see how you could,
I think
How
one
could
or
you
2
choose?
or 3
But what
would have
about the
done
other-
something to sort of pull us in.
Yeah.
Just the way detail is in a painting, you know.
Mhm.
You've got the overall thing, and then you've got that incredible detail on that certain section, and all of a sudden it pops.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have illustrated the point you're making, that we're not looking at the individuals.
That's a good point. That's
It's
a good
the
point.
old issue of concrete versus abstract.
Yeah.
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 That's a very good point, thank you, Ruth. And in fact, I had a couple of quotations, if you will, already written, and I had them on a different screen, and at some point I thought, no, I'll
Wow.
but, yeah.
You're right, it's a different poem.
Joe, I have a question about the line, just waiting for tough men to liberate them from their distress.
Yes.
I hear some sarcasm in there. Was that meant?
It was purposeful.
This is inscribed on the Statue of Liberty.
Okay, Chorus of America. Maybe later on I'll tell you where this came from. This is typically Sven, right? This is the kind of stuff I write. A dingy gray ocean liner, having labored across the Atlantic from wintry old Europe, now passes the woman at the gate. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The passengers crowd the rails and the portholes as they now complete this longed-for traditional voyage, having saved long for as little as $10. They now move down the gangway, most in moth-eaten wool and well-worn furs, carrying battered suitcases and string-tied boxes and bundles to step on the destined soil. Folded into their heads, music supports hearts full of anxiety and anticipation. There is the Star-Spangled Banner, and with forward-looking resolve, deep down on this special day, the music and words of what Sinatra could say, offering hope to all voyagers, I'll do it my way.
in the second stanza, third line down, you read traditional instead of transitional.
Which do you
Oh,
mean?
I mean transitional.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes, I do mean transitional. And of course,
Traditional works, though.
Yeah,
Either one.
that's why
Uh-huh.
I was with you.
Yeah.
yeah, there was a great competition at the high point of immigration to get passengers, and so they were selling passage for as little as $10 to go from Europe to America.
But aren't these people an earlier version of the Syrian women? They're voiceless, nameless masses and not treated as individuals?
So for the sake of footnoting, we have the original Emma
I should have
Lazarus.
put it in the bottom.
Yeah, the original
Better get on with this.
Well,
I'm not gonna get through all these poems.
Okay, it's a perfect sonnet, and it's interesting, she died in 1887, 4 years after writing this sonnet, and it wasn't put into the Statue of Liberty until 1903. The Twin Cities, the air bridge harbor that Twin Cities framed, the last line of her first stanza, that's New York City and Brooklyn, who were then separate political entities. So then on the other side, unless you have Lazarus questions,
Are you gonna read it?
the new Colossus? I can't. Is there time? Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that Twin Cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden shore.
I want to get the shivers.
Think of how many people came.
When I first tried to read it, Joy, the other day, I could hardly read it. I was breaking up.
Pretty powerful.
Yeah.
My grandparents' knees are on Ellis Island at the base of
Yeah.
the statue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So am I. All my grandparents were born in Italy and went through Ellis Island to come in.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I was a kid growing up in New Jersey, we would go to Ellis Island, and at that time, you could go on up into,
Yeah.
but now you can't. You only go up as far as the
I
crown.
think this poem should be, that poem, The New Colossus, should be put on the front pages of newspapers, seriously. I mean, we don't,
To re-
It is time that we elders lead the way in sensing the soul of our planet, striving to understand the needs and desires of our Mother Earth, and listening carefully to her guidance. First, we must cherish and protect our children, tune in to their natural innocence and share their wonder. We must resurrect the long-lost sacred stories that encourage them to directly experience the gifts of the whole universe. We must cherish the cultural traditions which nourish connections to past and future generations of human and other creatures, and pass these to our children and grandchildren. We must summon the courage to be truth tellers to the younger generations as we face the challenges of our current situation, while empowering them to respond imaginatively, opening their eyes to the exquisite beauty that surrounds them. We must lead them joyously to the wonders of exploration of the natural world and the incredible gifts of creation, releasing them from boredom and disenchantment and the sterile preoccupation of an artificial lifestyle captured by the lure of money. In these ways, we can give our children a chance to right the wrongs they are inheriting. We elders will have fulfilled our mission.
You and Joseph are gonna have to get together. Come up with a poem.
Don't we elders to some extent bear the burden of having
Yes.
created these problems?
Yes, we do. So I need to change the last line. I know.
Yeah, I have the same thought. That
Do you get Harper's?
Screwed up the world.
No,
Right?
not
In the current Harper's, there's an opening article by our
Blind people.
Remind,
phrase, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal, not for the color of their skin, but for the strength of their character. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Of the people, by the people, for the people. The American dream, comfort, not castles. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much, it is whether we provide enough for those who have too little. 40 acres and a mule. This land is your land, this land is my land. We can have democracy in this country, or we could have great wealth concentrated in the hands of a few, but we can't have both. Play ball."
Wow.
The last is Brandeis. The last quote is
Yeah.
my hero.
what, play
Round
ball?
play
ball?
Play ball?
Pardon?
Did
Play
he say
ball?
play ball?
No.
No, it's the next one.
Sorry.
I wanted the same thing.
Who was it? Yeah.
Brandeis up
Joe
there.
Nuxall.
And then finally, footnote to the weather, gray slumber. The day slumbers all day. Nothing better to do on a day so gray. I sit and read, and heaviness weighs the eyes. Dropping off repeatedly comes as no surprise. When the sun finally emerges, gone quickly are the winter dirges. Energy, all day kept sleeping, now inspires the languid to be leaping. Indeed, gray slumber pulls down the shades of one's living room, and activity evades one's sunny side, energetic doing, till the bright sun comes to stop the solemn stewing.
That's pretty good. I think that ought to be on the side of a soup can. Soup for a winter day.
Yeah.
Footnote to the weather report.
Okay, that's that. I've had me a good cry. I'm all right. You, that's done. We even look so normal, chopping vegetables, watching a movie, reading a book. Those odd off moments. Not even crying when tears well up, dropping the soup on the popcorn or the page. Remembering something small, flinging us back against that same wall. Unmindful of the inertia that's crept in, it's our hearts that hurts for what was but's gone. Right for what never happened too, not in this life anyway. Then the water boils or our fingers slide over the blade, mercifully, bringing us back to the present to turn down the heat, sop up the blood, inching us forward. Then one night we stay up to see silly Jimmy Fallon's Late Show, pleased to go to bed laughing in spite of it all.
I like that.
That is the damnedest thing. Perfect title. We do look so normal, don't we?
I know, I know. Well, I was just at a funeral on Saturday for Doug Bennett, my friend Rita's husband, and he had had cancer, but then died of a heart attack. Well, you know how that goes. It probably all contributed to it. And then we were with a friend who had lost her young daughter. She had 2 young children, and you know, and I just thought, how do we just keep going, you know, while we chop vegetables and we watch movies and we read books.
And you walk.
And you walk, yeah. And that, little things bring us into the present moment, and that's the saving grace, that present moment. So I tried to capture it. It just seems like such a paltry effort, but
You did a very good job of that.
Thank you.
Processed it yet, but I'm not, probably not.
I like the grief, that casserole dish
Yeah.
no one wants to eat.
Remember that show, Bringing Up Helen?
Casserole.
Something really yucking about the weather.
My sister's in Florida.
To see. I share this, it's really a statement to myself on what I hope for and kind of the left side of what loving gift is. So I hope for that, and I've been tempted to do the not. So this is not done. I found it when I was looking for something, and I found the seed of this thought in 2003 on the computer, and then in 2009 I had actually started to do something with it, so I recrafted it here in 2015. And I submit it as, maybe you have a line to add because I'm adding to it. So loving gifts to my spouse is, and is not. Living with trust and honesty in our marriage, not living in rage. Praying for his love to fill us, not braying with a brash cuss. Giving a compassion gift, not giving a concession lift. Opening my heart, not just opening my billfold. Giving of my best, not giving anything less. Giving in secret, not giving just for others to see. Sharing time for us, not keeping time. Could have said just for me, for myself. Giving from love we built, not giving from guilt. Giving gifts to meet a need, not giving from my stingy greed. Giving God credit for our love, not discrediting the one above. So, if you have a additional thought, I'm still thinking.
Well, I have to leave because I've got to go pick up Dick before they close the office, and he's closed up inside of it. Where's my pillow? It's okay.
I wrote this poem in response to Mary Oliver. And I wrote this quick yesterday, so anyway, it's called The Line. Johnny Cash sang, "Because you're mine, I walk the line." I don't recall walking that line because anyone was ever mine. I've drawn some lines in the dirt, in the sand, when dishing out spots for a pickup ball game, hardly the same. My lines were different ones, imaginary yet powerful. Some have crossed, violated my trust. Some have crossed, opened my heart. And then there are those lines that someone dares you to cross to prove you're brave, foolish, or both. I've crossed a few of those. Sometimes, and you know when it is, you are compelled to walk, run, even cut the lines that encircle you by others, those that aim to harness. Some lines imposed are so strong you feel helpless, fixed in time, even when time is slipping away. Like coastlines, those lines must fade in their own way. As one goes through this thing called life, we soften to what is, release tautness. I am learning what to guard, what to cross, and when to hold that line. I am a beginner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good philosophy.
Similar to Nan's, I mean, it's philosophic and contemplating what life means.
Looks good on the page.
Thank you.
It does indeed. Well, I was also inspired by teeth and beat our breasts and cry crocodile tears about the state of the world. And we forget that the world has some wonderful things in it. Fresh snow, new cry babies, all the wonderful things in life. And that we ought to balance our dirges with some light lyrics. So I started off with that in mind, that we need some kind of balance. I call it Janus-faced world. And then I have a quote, to face reality fairly, open both your eyes, one to see evil, the other to see good. Okay, here the poem goes. By the way, it is written, modeled after Robert Frost's, what I think is the most nearly perfect poetic form. It's a 4x4. There are 4 stanzas, 4 lines each, with 4 beats in each line and 4 different rhyme patterns. It's a 4x4 poem. I know our world is filled with woe, our wicked side is quick to show. We dread to hear the din of war, we shudder at blood's easy flow. Dire tales of strife o'er near and far, hate dims the light of every star. Lament for this is close at hand, we fixate on our latest scar. That's not the sole lay of the land, we need to see life's other hand. Evil and good are Siamese twins, those seeing one misunderstand. With love and hate our world spins, no one knows the side that wins. We need all strings on violins, we need all strings on violins.
Very good.
Frost
Yes.
is stopping by the woods in a
Yes.
winter day, follows exactly that.
So well said.
Yeah, yeah.
The reason I got into the poem that I did was because of the
Out
string.
of my depths. I've come to accept that I'm far from adept at most of the fine social graces. I know I belong with the burgeoning throng of those in subordinate places. I'm lost in a haze whenever I gaze on a properly set formal table. I haven't a clue about what I should do or what I would do were I able. There are masses and masses of plates, cups, and glasses, and the cutlery's way beyond counting. I'm frightened to death and I can't catch my breath, and I feel my anxiety mounting. I'd be such a bore should I bolt for the door, but I'm feeling all shaky and pallid, because it may sound absurd, and she's not said a word, but I just ate my hostess's salad.
Patricia, have you been watching Downton Abbey or something?
It's like C.S. Eliot's Sherbrooke.
That is so beautiful.
We've all been there.
And this is called an etude because I was just sort of practicing, playing games with my language. My inward fuses all were blown, self-sustaining strength had flown, and I was feeling like a clown. The situation clearly looked as though my psychic goose was cooked. The whole thing had me badly spooked. This outcome had not been predicted. My options were sorely restricted. I feared I would be indicted. I quivered, and forlorn I quaked. My heartfelt fear could not be faked. I stood there vulnerable and naked.
We have a wonderful game.
That's fun.
Yeah, Patricia, you do it well.
I love the
Clever
play.
little idea. What prompted that idea of the false roll or the slant rhyme or whatever it's called?
I'm not sure. I think I was writing something, or maybe it was working with these international students where they were mispronouncing a word that looked like other words. That, or it could be, somebody sent me a thing on Facebook that said, rough and cough and bow do not rhyme, but pony and baloney do.
Yeah.
Both with your poem.
It's interesting to resort to one really wild out thing on each line.
Both with your poem and Felix's, I love the scheme, the rhyme scheme. Is that, thank you, the rhyme scheme in both of those really attractive.
Yeah, they're distinctive voices.
They're very distinctive, very nice to read.
Thank you.
Really love them.
Two masters of the form.
I know, really, I think that's important.
Yeah.
Form, that's
Some of
great.
us hear the word form and you know what
Some
we're
of us-
talking about.
Some of us just
Form,
do footnotes.
Yeah.
Formless.
Formless.
Or formless and formless all together.
informal or you formal?
whatever. Whatever. Whatever.